It's my family, and I love this TV show right now called Alone. And it's where there's 10 people. They go out to some remote part of the wilderness, usually it's been a lot in like northern Canada, and then they are all alone. They actually can't see each other. They're sort of separated, but they're in the same area. And then they compete to see who can live the longest off the land. They don't have anything other than, I think it's 10 items. And so it's like an axe and, a saw and some twine and things like that. And then they have to figure out how to live off the land for as long as they can. And normally it's like 100 days that they'll make it to top, so 3 months. But it's really interesting because it tells me how important all of the things that we actually have are to survival. And not only, so two things. First thing is technology is very real and it does make our life that much easier. And then the second thing is being close to people is an important part of being human. And I think watching this show, and you can see what ends up happening in the show is that the first couple of days are really excited. Usually, a couple of people drop out in the first couple of days. It's pretty normal, um, just from the fear of being by themselves. But then the reality sets in, and over the course of many months, their demeanor, their personality changes, and they go usually from, this very happy person to, at the beginning, this very happy person to somebody that is just a completely different person, and you could see just hollowness in their eyes. You can see that they are not doing well, um, you know, generally nutrition wise, but also not doing well as mentally. It's interesting to sort of see this, that for most people that's the path. The odd person maybe goes and is doing okay, but it's pretty normal for all of them to mentally just not be right. And it's it's one of these things that I watch and I reflect on two things. First of all, that we are such social beings and our life is so much better off than it could be compared to even 200 years ago, that I am deeply appreciative. It makes me very appreciative to watch these people going through these transformation and living life of what it used to be like. And then the second thing is I think about how hard it was. My grandparents did that. That was their life. They moved a whole family. Both sets of my family. They moved to. They were in northern Ontario, and they cleared land. That was a thing. Was like homesteading up there. I think you got 100 acres of land if you cleared the land for the government, which today seems not kosher, but that was the thing. That was a policy. So they settled, and they were completely by themselves. They were close enough to town, I guess, that they can all go in. It was probably a 20-minute ride to town to get in to get things, but they were on their own in the bush clearing land. Man, I think about these, my grandparents, my Polish grandparents. So my mom's side, they were in Canada for a while. My dad was Swedish, and they moved, in the early 1900s, from Sweden. They moved to Saskatchewan and couldn't make a go of it there. It's too hard. Saskatchewan's very tough because there's nothing there, so they moved to Northern Ontario. But on my dad's side, they were Polish immigrants straight just before the Second World War. They come from Poland to go to the bush. And man, I couldn't imagine how tough that was of living there. My dad used to tell stories. He's passed away years ago. He used to tell stories about how cold it was and just like how um, they were just not prepared for any of this stuff. And this was before we had any social security or anything like that, or people gave donations, and there was no money to go around. Poverty was everywhere. Um, and I think about how, yeah, they made do, but man, it was a tough life. All of my dad's siblings, they all moved away by, I think my dad was 15, 16, and that was normal. Many of them probably moved out of the house before then and moved to different locations. Uh, and I think they all tried to get away as far away from home as possible. Um, I think about how tough that was as a life and going through this, watching this show alone. You get an appreciation of just, if you start out completely normal and sane, at the end you become a totally different person. And if you're not mentally prepared, or it's not even preparedness, if you don't have the mental fortitude for that, you become a completely different person than who you are previously. And I would imagine that the participants on the show, it's just a TV show, that they are screwed up for years after that. I don't think that's something you get over. You completely change as a person. And, I think about my grandparents and how they would be totally different people because of the things, the hardship that they had to go through. And they're they weren't living a contest and they couldn't go back to the normal world. They were living life and moving away, being persecuted from another country and moving someplace that was ultimately probably just as hard, but they had their own freedom by doing it. I just think of how deeply, deeply appreciative am I to live today, to be in the world that we live in. Me and my cozy car, my cozy house, everything is comfortable. I got clean clothes. I am just appreciative of my life. Something fierce. You don't understand how fierce it actually is. Just how lucky I am to live in the generation that I live in 2 generations ago. One generation ago, never mind that, that was my parents, were just getting out of that and they had to live through some of it. Um, Man, we're lucky. Don't underestimate that. We're very lucky. All right, take care and have a wonderful day.